Easter dinner at his girlfriend's grandmother's house.
Mine are the same.
Had 3 hams that day.
But he was salted up.
All this new stuff up here and all this. I need to go back there and get one of those prayer back.
If I fix you, I know you're going to.
Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and welcome everybody to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners April 18th, 2022 meeting. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If everybody could sign in, please.
How we sign in?
Yes, ma'am.
Number one.
Number 1. Is that it?
Did it work? Did it work?
We're back.
We don't see
For
it.
the record, looks like everyone's present. I don't think it's up on your screen, but 9 out of 9 are present.
Wonderful. If we could now stand for the invocation and the pledge, please.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for being able to be here and celebrate the season this past weekend. And we are grateful that we are here tonight. We pray that you be with us and guide us in our decision making and open our ears to what we have to hear and help us know the direction you would like us to take. Amen.
Face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. If we can vote, please. Motion passes. Madam Manager, do we have any public addresses to the board this evening?
We have one person signed up to speak, Jessica Hardy. The attorney would read the statement.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Each person will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. A speaker representing a group of individuals in attendance will be allowed to speak up to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address prior to speaking. A total of 30 minutes is set aside for public addresses to the board.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jessica Hardy, and I live at 2624 Whitaker Glen Drive in Farmville. I have been requested to read letters from 2 community members that could not be here tonight due to work obligations. The first one is from Dr. Roberto Portella. County Commissioners, County Managers, staff, and public. My apologies for not being present today, but my clinical duties prevented me from expressing my support in person. My name is Dr. Roberto Portella, and I serve as the EMS Medical Director for Pitt County. First, I would like to express my support and admiration of our first responders and public health personnel during these taxing times. I have had the honor and privilege of working side by side with them as the COVID pandemic turned our world upside down. From giving direct care to COVID patients to providing preventative care through vaccine clinics and testing sites, the men and women of the Public Health Department and the first responder community proved not only their importance but their resilience. When the world went on lockdown and citizens stayed home to protect themselves, these brave people continued giving services and medical care, putting the health of others ahead of theirs and their families. It might seem ages ago now, but the initial months of the pandemic were extremely scary and traumatizing for everyone, especially for frontline workers. We knew very little about the virus, and seemingly healthy people were dying. We were unsure of how to best protect ourselves, and no vaccine or treatment was available at that time. Despite these frightful odds, these frontline workers put their life at risk every day. To say that I am proud of them is a great understatement. As a physician, I recognize the increased risk these personnel were exposed to. These essential workers were indisputably at heightened risk due to the character of their work. I know we have thanked these essential workers and praised them in the past, but we can always do more. I understand that the county was allocated funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, which can be used for premium pay of eligible workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency. I respectfully ask that the county commissioners consider rewarding these hard-working personnel with this premium pay. The government has provided clear guidelines on how these funds can be used for this purpose. The men and women of our first responder community and public health unequivocally fall into that category. I recognize the difficult job the county commissioners have with balancing all community priorities and trying to be equitable. I believe that investing in the people that stepped up during the pandemic assures that our county will be ready for the next public health emergency. I have faith that all of you will do your best to acknowledge these essential workers, and as a taxpayer, I support these funds being used in this manner. Thank you for your attention. And that was signed Dr. Portella. The second one is from a certified nurse midwife who has both worked in the public and private sector, Jennifer Perry Hidalgo. I am writing to urge you to support our county first responders and public health staff with hazard pay from the American Rescue Plan Act funds. These county employees work tirelessly, putting themselves and their families at risk to help our residents throughout this pandemic. I had the privilege of working at the Pitt County Health Department prior to the pandemic as a certified nurse midwife. I can attest to their endless efforts of the public health staff in keeping the county programs running, be it day-to-day operating of the family planning clinic, STD screenings, or prenatal clinics, or providing emergency housing, food, and health care during natural disasters such as hurricanes. While the majority of the county was working from home during the pandemic, our county first responders and healthcare workers were arriving to work as they always have, risking exposure to themselves and their families to the COVID-19 virus. They provided screening and vaccination services in addition to their assigned clinics and programs, coming up with creative and evidence-based techniques to keep our community safe. One of the most valuable aspects of our county throughout the pandemic has been our employees, and I would hope that these healthcare workers and first responders who put their lives on the line will be recognized and compensated for assisting us safely throughout this pandemic. Public health is not as well fully funded or recognized as larger private or nonprofit healthcare entities in this county. You won't find the faces of public health workers on glossy brochures or websites, but I can assure you they have and will continue to put in the work day after day to provide services to the community's most vulnerable residents and the community at large. Other North Carolina counties have used their American Rescue Plan Act funds for hazard pay, including Macon County, who donated all of their funds to employee pay. Let's stand with our county healthcare workers and first responders and show them that their efforts have been appreciated and that they receive the compensation that they deserve. Thank you.
Madam Manager, do we have anyone else signed up?
No one else has signed up.
If we can now move on to Employee of the Month presentation.
Yes, if Ms. Mewborn would come forward.
Mr. Chairman, to read and recognize a statement about our first April Employee of the Month, Ms. Chandra Mewborn. So please help me in congratulating this Employee of the Month, Chandra Mewborn. Ms. Mewborn was nominated and selected by the Employee of the Month Committee for going above and beyond in her role for coordinating the Christmas Cheer program and her dedication to the county. The nominators described Ms. Mewborn, and I love this, as a leading leader who propels her staff to excel every single time. Ms. Mewborn is responsible for the Christmas Cheer program to ensure every child receives gifts of love during Christmas. She inherited the program from previous staff and organized it so that the process of pickup and delivery would be seamless for staff and community partners. Ms. Mewborn is a social work supervisor 3 in social services and has 12 years of experience with Pitt County government. So we could not be more pleased to present you with this certificate, which reads Certificate of Recognition for Employee of the Month, April 2022, presented to Chandra L. Mewborn, Social Services, in recognition of your dedication and exemplary service to Pitt County government and the citizens that we serve. Signed by me, Janice Gallagher, with the official county seal, and in it is a check for $100 to thank you for your service. So thank you so much. With that, a round of applause. Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you do. And I will also say, as I'm walking back to the seat, that this was our first month and we had an incredible number of submissions, which will stay on file for 6 months for future consideration. So well done.
If we can now move on to items for report. Mr. Peterson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. My name's Dave Peterson. I'm the Senior Regional Director at Trillium Health Resources, and every year I give an annual report. I'm going to cut the annual report down to a small amount and talk about the foster care plan also, which I think was requested. So I will try to move through this fairly quickly. As you know, Trillium is mission building lives and community well-being through partnership and proven solutions. Who we are, I'll touch on that, but I'll hit a little bit more on Medicaid transformation changes, some of the organizational changes, and then some county data. And one of the things that I want to make sure that folks do know about is Commissioner Huggins serves on our governing board, and we have regional advisory boards, and Deborah Herring, who you have appointed to be on our regional board, also serves as a Pitt County representative. So I want to thank Commissioner Huggins for being on our governing board. So who we are, we cover, last year I was in front of you, we covered 26 counties. We now cover 28. And I'll talk just briefly about that, but the only number that I want to just make sure I point out on here is we served over 58,000 individuals last year. Next year when I'm in front of you, and this is my 8th year being in front of you, that number is going to go down. And I'll talk a little bit the reason for that, because we've had some major changes happening this past year. Here is our map. We have a northern region with 10 counties with 250,000 people. I'm in the central region, obviously, with Pitt, Nash, all the way out to Dare, and it's 2 less counties, but we have 500,000 people in there, mainly because of Greenville. And then in the southern region, it's 8 counties, but they have almost 800,000 people, mainly because of Wilmington and Jacksonville. So I looked at my notes. In 2018, I was in front of you and telling you about the standard plan insurance companies that were going to come in and take the individuals that we currently serve that were low to moderate risk. And as of July 2021, last year, they started to do that. And these 5 insurance companies that are in front of you are the 5 that have started taking over the Medicaid individuals that are low to moderate risk with mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use. Okay? These plans, they have, our national insurance companies, and so they've moved into North Carolina. Some of them were already here that you're familiar with. Blue Cross has been here. United's been here, and some of them are fairly new to North Carolina. And that was called the standard plans. And I've also, in 2018, 19, 20, 21, talked with you about the tailored plan, which we had to apply for in order to continue to serve people with mental health and developmental disabilities and substance use. There were 7 that were awarded. You may have seen the news. There was a lot of conflict with one of them, which was in the western part of the state. They decided to merge with another managed care organization, but they gave the counties the choice to go with any of the plans that they wanted to. They covered 20 counties. 11 of them decided to go elsewhere besides going to VIA, which was the one they merged with. So on that note, Halifax County said, we'd like to go with Trillium because Halifax is closer to us than it is the western part of the state. The other county that said, well, this isn't part of this MCO closing, but we are hearing good things about Trillium, and so they decided to also join us. So we went from 26 to 28 counties this past year. Here's this bottom note. Because of all the issues that were going on with the standard plan insurance companies managing the low to moderate risk individuals, they saw there was a lot of bumps in the road. They saw that they were not getting access to services in a timely fashion. And so they want us, if we were supposed to go live July 1, 22, to managing the high-risk individuals like we do today, but we're also needing to manage their primary care, and we haven't done that before. We've managed their mental health, but we haven't managed their physical health. So they've said, let's postpone this until December 1. So they learned a lesson on pushing this too fast, and that'll get to a point later that I'll make on another discussion. So we're going live December 1. Here's the new map. You'll see our counties in the light green. Obviously, we cover the largest geographical area in the state. We have a readiness review, which is July 13th and 14th, where the state's going to come out and ask us, are you ready to manage the whole person? We manage, like I said, their mental health, but we don't manage their physical health. Well, what is that going to mean? That means that we have to have a contract with every single pharmacy in those 28 counties. So I don't know how many pharmacies are in Pitt County, but we have to have a contract with them because they're now going to be managing all of the medication for heart disease and other areas of physical health. We also have to have a contract with every doctor's office that does Medicaid. So you can see when we manage the physical health side, we're going to have to also make sure that we're overseeing their medication and their primary care doc. All right? Big step. So many of you may have known Lisa Wainwright. She was our CEO. She retired after 46 years in the system. But many of you also may know Joy Futrell. She's been around also a very long time and was an area director way back in the day. And so she's our new CEO. Richard Leisner, who was our county attorney, he went up to Washington, D.C. for a job. So he's working up there now. But we did get Sinitria Goodman as our general counsel. We did hire Sue Ann Forrest, who is our director of government affairs, because she had that position in the physical world, and so she knows a lot of the lobbyists and a lot of the General Assembly folks. So she's in Raleigh almost every day, meeting with them to advocate for us. So we've had to move some staff around and, to make sure we're meeting the needs of the tailored plan. I'll go through this real quickly. I'll just give the call center example. We're required right now, today, to have a call center. But when we become a tailored plan, we're going to have a separate line for pharmacies to call us. We're going to have a separate line for the provider agencies to call us. We're going to have a separate line for nurses to call us, and then the current call center that we have. So our FTEs are going to go up just in the call center to make sure we're managing those. Some brief project updates. We're continuing to give out naloxone kits throughout the year, and this year they were spread out between a couple of departments in Pitt County, the health department, the sheriff's department, and I think, no, that was the previous year. Some went to the Greenville PD. So we're also opening up mobile clinics in our rural counties, and we've done some ribbon cuttings on those. And those are mobile clinics addressing the substance abuse issues in those counties. So they're having licensed clinicians in these clinics in very, very rural areas. We are also picking up our tribal engagement process and making sure that we're including them to receive services. Family navigators, we're in the process of getting those on board because they want more people with lived experience working for Trillium. We do have co-responder pilots that are working with, it's an agency that either is in the DSS office or in the Sheriff's Department that is working with them, and actually in Pitt County, it's with the Greenville PD that those folks are sitting with them, and licensed clinicians going out on calls with the Greenville PD. Consumer Family Advisory Committee, we're adding a representative because the state is just added, instead of the 3 disability groups that we currently serve, they're also wanting to make sure that we serve people with traumatic brain injury, or TBI. And then the opening of the Healing Place in New Hanover County is supposed to occur in October. So those are some project updates. Let me give you Pitt County specific data. 7,628 individuals were served last year. 6,079 individuals with a primary diagnosis of mental health, 1,654 with a primary diagnosis of substance use, and 1,083 with a primary diagnosis of intellectual and developmental disabilities. Now, I always say those numbers don't add up to 7,623 because many of those individuals are duly diagnosed with those with that diagnosis. So I have on here questions, and I'd be happy to answer questions, but I also know that you all want to hear about the foster care plan. So I'll leave that up to you if you want to ask questions about this now, or for me to go into the foster care plan.
Questions? Please continue.
Okay. So you all may have heard that the state is looking at doing a statewide foster care plan. And what that is implying is that they are wanting one company to manage the entire foster care system, both the kids and potentially their family members. 2 applicants can apply, one being the managed care organizations like Trillium, and there's 6 of us. Remember that slide earlier, there's 6 of us in the state. Or that other slide that I had with those 5 insurance companies. All right? So what we are saying at Trillium is that we would prefer to keep the management of the foster care system local like it is now. I will say, we continue to try to improve that system on a regular basis. If it went to a statewide system, the company that would be managing Pitt County DSS kids would also be the company that's managing Buncombe County DSS kids. All right? One agency. Now, I'll say that we know the counties best. I was in a meeting with Janice on something totally different last week. But we're here. We're in the counties. I point out Sean Kenny in the audience, who a lot of you know. We hired him from Pitt County DSS, and he's been with us 3 years. And so he knows the Pitt County DSS system really well. And that is one of the benefits of keeping it local. The other variable, if it was one of those national companies, all right, do they have a connection? And I'm going to, do they have a connection? And I'll throw a name out there, Luana Gibbs, whom you might not know, who's the health director down in Hyde County, who I know very well and can call her at any time, and she can call me. Hyde County being one of our smallest counties. Are they going to have that type of connection? All right. So we want to make sure that we're advocating to the state that we keep the foster care system local, and try to tell the state we need to make improvements, which we do, and we will work on that with the other managed care organizations, And so there's been letters, and I've sent a draft letter to you all that we've had counties sign off on. We also have had letters that all 6 managed care organizations have signed off on. And then, just last Wednesday, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners sent a letter up to the state saying, please delay this at least so that they can take a longer look at this. So the State Association of County Commissioners is also saying what we're kind of saying. Let's not rush into having one statewide plan for all foster kids. So I'd be happy to then answer questions on either one of my presentations tonight.
It's good information.
Yes.
So what is the state's point of what, on the other side, I appreciate you're giving us your view, but why would they be proposing such a thing?
Yeah, so the main, and I've seen this in every presentation that they've done, is they have been saying that they would have accountability to one agency. That's what they're basically saying, is accountability to one agency. Good question.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. Croom.
Thank you.
Actually, we have Russell Hill here this evening for Mr. Croom.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Manager Gallagher. I'm Russell Hill, the Assistant Tax Administrator with Pitt County Tax Assessor's Office, or Administration. I'll be presenting the March 2022 Tax Collection Report for Mr. Croom tonight. The Pitt County fiscal year to date, July 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, combined collection rate for real and personal property is 98.66%. The collection rate 1 year ago for real and personal property was 98.56%. And Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using the necessary remedies available through the North Carolina General Statutes. It is my recommendation tonight that the board approve the March 2022 Tax Collection Report as presented.
Thank you very much.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. If we could vote, please. Motion passes. Mr. Barnett.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. You have in front of you tonight the monthly financial report for the General Fund, the Solid Waste Fund, and the EMS Fund as at the end of March 31st, 2022. We are 9 months through the year, or 75% of the way for this fiscal year. In the General Fund, we have collected 76.6% of our anticipated revenues while only spending 71.2% of our budgeted expenditures. In the Solid Waste Fund, we have collected 90.97% of our anticipated revenues while only spending 74.07% of our expenses. And in the EMS Fund, we have collected 84.26% while only spending 81.03%. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Motion passes. If we can now move on to the manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few items to remind you of this evening. First is your next meeting dates, May 2nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. here in this auditorium. And then we have budget workshops beginning May 3rd through the 5th at 8:30 a.m. in this auditorium. Following that, you have a regularly scheduled meeting for May 16th at 6 p.m. And I'd ask the board if they would consider cancellation of that meeting. While we have able deputy managers and assistant managers who could handle that meeting in my absence, I have an unavoidable conflict that day, my daughter's college graduation, and given the limited number of items on the agenda, I would ask the board if they wanted to continue that meeting with a deputy in my place or cancel it on May 16th.
Cancel.
entertain
Second.
such a motion.
What was the motion?
To cancel the meeting on May 16th.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I heard what you said, but I didn't hear what was said. So we've had a motion and a second.
If we could vote, please. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Your next item is tomorrow, April 19th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll have the S&S Farms Farm Family event, which is an invitation-only event to celebrate their award through Soil and Water Conservation District. Item C, April 21st, from 4 to 7 p.m. is Pitt County's Career Fair. We invite anyone who is seeking employment with Pitt County government to come to the Mark Owens Auditorium in the Agricultural Center to learn more about Pitt County departments and employment opportunities. And then the last date to remind you of is April 27th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning will be the North Carolina Department of Transportation local official meeting on the closure of NC 222 Bridge, and that will be held at the Belvoir Fire Department. And it would encourage all commissioners who are able to attend that meeting. Next, wanted to remind folks that it is National County Government Month, and with National County Government Month comes our 2022 art contest. So I wanted to do a reminder. This National County Government Month is celebrated by our National Association of Counties, and the theme this year is called Thrive. T stands for technology, H for health, R for readiness, I for infrastructure, V for vulnerable communities, and E for economic opportunities. And when speaking with the press in Pitt County, I said we have a second E, and that would be environment. And you'll see those different aspects of county government highlighted this month. And in conjunction with that, we're holding the 2022 art contest, which allows all students in Pitt County public and private schools to submit a work of art that represents or completes the sentence, "I love my county because." The submission deadline for this year's art contest is May 1st, 2022. There are flyers throughout and on the county's website that talk about how to submit that art, and we look forward to some really good submissions this year. Last year, we recognized 5 winners for Pitt County for that art contest. Next item I have is to celebrate and recognize yours truly, James Rhodes, your Assistant County Manager and Planning Director, who was recently received the East Carolina University Community and Regional Planning Distinguished Alumni Award. If Mr. Rhodes would stand up, I think that deserves a round of applause. Next is an update on Farmville Corporate Park. As you know, economic development is one of your top priorities, and we are building a shell building in Farmville Corporate Park and recently purchased 20 acres. This item is to let you know that we closed on that transaction and we are now the owners of that acreage in Farmville Corporate Park and moving forward with that project as directed by the board. Item H is to make you aware of a project that I've been talking with folks about, and Commissioner Ann Huggins might wish to add to this as well, and this relates to a family justice center. So a family justice center are centers that exist in other counties throughout the state, and essentially it's a location where all entities that serve victims of violence are co-located and housed together to create enhanced victim support services under one roof to assist folks in the community needing those services. We do not currently have a Family Justice Center in Pitt County, and the Family Justice Center organization is doing a strategic planning study for Pitt County. I've been in conversation with them about what Pitt County's role would be in that process, and the role is typically, once the study is done, the county would be the one to provide space, preferably somewhere near the courthouse, where all of these separate entities could co-locate to perform the services in the community. So we have not obligated or committed anything. The study will take a good amount of time, at least a year or more. But I wanted you to know that Commissioner Huggins has been in contact with the Family Justice Center individuals. I've had a few phone calls with the staff of the Family Justice Center organization and wanted you to know we were having these conversations. When that study's been completed and there's an ask on the part of the county, then I'll bring all of that back to you and the board can decide if you wish to participate or not. But just wanted to make you aware that those conversations were ongoing. If you hear anything in the community about a family justice center. Two more quick things. One is I wanted to take a minute to talk about our solid waste assets and enforcement. And we'll have a more formal presentation from John Demery, the Solid Waste Director, next meeting. But we've had a couple of questions. Commissioner Perkins-Williams often reminds us about her concerns about litter and solid waste in improper places north of the river. We've had some additional concerns as well in other parts of the county about trash that may be flying out of trucks, landing on the side of the road, or not properly secured. So in response to all of those concerns, I've asked John Demery, our Solid Waste Director, to make a report to this board at your next meeting, describing to the board our current solid waste assets and the enforcement that's currently in place. I think you'll be pleased to hear all that we already have. And then once you hear that presentation, I'll ask the board for consensus to let me know whether or not you want me to take the next steps to develop a strategic plan and process to strengthen our solid waste enforcement and littering. I think we could put together a committee that would include the Department of Transportation, the Sheriff's Office, Solid Waste, and other county partners to talk about ways that we can address litter in our community. That may involve strengthening our solid waste enforcement ordinance. It may be working in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office to see if the inmates can assist in any fashion in picking up trash along the side of the road. But I know that there are several citizens and folks in the community who are concerned about this issue, and I just want to let you know we'll have a report next meeting and then seek your consensus on direction thereafter.
Commissioner Colson.
I would like to remind you that the state constitution requires 90% of any monies collected through enforcement that goes to the school system. Let's not repeat a mistake.
We won't, as it should.
All right, thank you.
So is there any way to have some of those areas patrolled a little before we meet again? The issues that seem pretty egregious that I'm hearing about, and I hate to continue hearing about big bags of industrial diapers being dumped in front of people's houses while we're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yes, no, we absolutely can, and those are happening right now.
Yeah, okay.
So John Demery has been in contact actually today and again at the end of last week with our solid waste enforcement officer, making him aware of particular locations. We have the current ability to charge criminally or cite for litter, as we normally do, and so we just need to take advantage of what we currently have in place and then determine whether or not we want to strengthen it.
Those are industrial bags, not industrial diapers.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
I have an alibi.
So that's coming. And then the last item I wanted to share with the board has to do with earlier this year, I had mentioned to you that as a new manager, I was exploring consideration of an alternate human services model. Back in 2012, the General Assembly gave counties the authority to consolidate human services agencies, consolidate public health and Department of Social Services. 38 counties in North Carolina already have consolidated. And so I wanted to look into the concept to determine the pros and the cons and see if this was something that would be beneficial or advantageous for Pitt County. There are many pros and cons to a consolidated human services, and I think the biggest pros are that you can form a more collaborative whole family perspective, and you heard that a little bit from Dave Peterson tonight on Trillium. With Medicaid transformation, the trend is to look at the whole family, not an individual piece or part of a person's needs. And so I think consolidation would provide a more collaborative whole family perspective. I think your leaders in both organizations can think more broadly when forming solutions, and I think they can do some things that make common sense to me, which might be to locate or co-locate WIC, Women, Infant, and Children benefits, with SNAP, food stamp benefits, for example, under one roof because they serve the same population. Enhances customer service. I also think there are pros to integrating more closely with county policies and procedures, and I think there are benefits from a personnel perspective in that you can have standardization. And then I think the other big pro is administrative relief within each department and creation of efficiency. I think one of the largest cons or negatives to a consolidation model is that it is not likely to save you any money, and it may in fact even cost you more money as leaders start to think more broadly. But my report today, as is indicated on your agenda, is to suspend consideration of an alternate human services model. And my reasoning is because timing is everything. And so I believe that although there are many pros, this is not the right time to consider an alternate human services model, because both agencies, our Public Health Department and our Social Services Department, have yet to return to their pre-pandemic baseline. And so as a new manager, of course, I wanted to get in here and take everything to the next level and make everything the best it could possibly be. And we will get it to the next level. But I quickly came to realize in talking with folks in both departments, and you've heard from public health employees as recently as this evening, that we have a good amount more internal work to do in our human services agencies for things such as basic staffing, employee morale, compensation, work culture, flexibility, before we can get back to baseline. And we need to be there before I can then look to take it to even the next level beyond that. So, I think we can still accomplish some of the pros of consolidation without consolidating. I think we can co-locate where it makes sense to co-locate without consolidating. I think we can look at standardization in policies and procedures where it makes sense to do so. And I think we can look at compensation and potentially further explore substantial equivalency between state and local government. And that basically means that right now those agencies are governed by the Office of State Human Resources. But if our policies are substantially equivalent or equal to those at the state level, then they can come under the county umbrella. And that gives us a little more flexibility in hiring practices and in compensation. So I think we can accomplish some of the pros without consolidation, but to take it to the next level, I have more baseline work to do to help guide and support the leaders of those departments and their boards to get to the place where they can then grow further. So unless there's any objection to that, I'd like to suspend consideration at this time, work on those other underlying issues, and potentially pick up that conversation from the employee's perspective, not any time in our real foreseeable future. So those employees from both agencies who were nervous about this inquiry, I think can rest easy, but that we'll look at it when it's the right time.
Just a question, comment. Do we have any agencies that you know of throughout the state or nation that has this consolidation plan, and how maybe is it working or not working?
38 counties in North Carolina have successfully consolidated their human services agencies. So almost half, right? Over a third of our 100 counties have followed this model. They are counties bigger than us, counties smaller than us, and counties our same size. I don't know that any successfully did it during a pandemic. And I think that's our problem. I think if we suggested this 3 years ago, we would have been on a path to really create some efficiencies already. I think the pandemic has caused so much strain on each of these agencies. I talked with both Dr. Silvernail and Dr. Frazier this afternoon, and I said, I don't want to paint a picture that you're not doing the very best you can do. We so appreciate, and I shared with them what I was going to tell the Board of Commissioners this evening so that they could also share it with their board chairs, so it wouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And they both said, you're not painting an unfair picture. We're broken right now. We are not at our pre-pandemic baseline, if that's what you want to call it. And so we have to be realistic about what we've got right now. Can it be successful? Can consolidation be successful in Pitt County like it is in the other 38 counties? I absolutely believe it can. Is this the right time? I don't think so.
Janice, can you give me one county so I can go online and actually look up their information, because I'd like to see what how they advocate for it.
Our Mecklenburg is one. Our closest would be Edgecombe and Nash.
Okay, that's enough.
Madam Manager, and as you said, because of the pandemic, but also in the midst of all of the things that are going on with the Medicaid transformation and now the foster child program, that situation. So I support you, suspending that is a good time, even with all the pros that you that you listed,
Okay.
Has there been any that consolidated and reverted?
That's a good question. Not to my knowledge, but I will look. There may be. There very well may be. I think there may have been, I think there may be an example of one who tried it and it was not successful. But I'd have to look into that.
Mecklenburg did get a big suit behind some errors.
Okay, but they are consolidated now.
Yeah, they're consolidated.
Yeah. If no further questions, that's all I have for my report.
Thank you very much.
Motion to approve items for consent.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second. Motion passes. Mr. Corley, we can now move on to the Lakewood, Glenwood presentation.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Pleasure to be in front of you tonight. This item is follow-up to the direction that you gave us to move forward with the study for the Lake Glenwood properties, the actual dam and the lake itself, and determine the feasibility of a possible recreational area there, as well as investigate funding opportunities for the repair of that dam. So we have our consultant, LJB, here tonight. They're the ones that did the study. I believe you have a copy of that study in your packet. And Amy Black, who's an engineer with them, is going to step up and give her a presentation this evening.
I wanted to start out with just a map so that you could see where Lake Glenwood is located. You can see it highlighted here, and the green area represents Greenville city limits. So the lake and the subdivision that we're talking about is just outside of the city limits, but they are included in the city's ETJ. So I wanted to point that out. And a little background information, because the POA, the Property Owners Association, has been dealing with this for a number of years. The dam is owned by Lake Glenwood Property Owners Association, POA. They were issued a notice of deficiency back in June of 2017. They were given some items that they needed to repair, and they had another follow-up inspection the following February. There was no change, so they were issued their second notice. The POA then contacted us. We were Jewel at the time. We weren't before we were acquired. And in January of 19, they contracted with us to give them a report of what it would take to get the dam back into compliance. We provided that report in August of that same year. And at this point, there have not been any major repairs. The dam is not in compliance, and it is currently at a lowered lake level than normal full pool because of dam safety's order. One of the things I wanted to point out was this is one high hazard dam in Pitt County. There are 12 jurisdictional dams in the county. 7 of them are low hazard.
It's not you.
There are 12. That's quite all right. There are 12 jurisdictional dams in the county. 7 of them are low hazard, 1 is intermediate hazard, and 4 of them are high hazard. And those 4 dams are, of course, the Lake Glenwood, Brook Valley Country Club, Shepherd Mill Pond, and then one that's owned by Greenville Utilities Commission. And I wanted to plug in here the definition of high hazard, because a lot of people think that means that there's something wrong with the dams, and it does not. The way a dam gets a hazard classification is what happens if that dam fails, what happens downstream. If there's a risk downstream that would like inundate someone's home or overtop a road that is a highly traveled road, that would move it to the high hazard category. So it has nothing to do with the condition of the dam per se, but the hazard if it were to fail. So there's 4 of those high hazard dams in your county.
For clarification, of those, is there just one that would be in county land? Is it proper for me to ask a question as we're going? I'm getting some here.
It is okay to ask.
Shepherd's Mill, would that be county property?
I am not sure where these others are located. Shepherd is Brook Valley.
That's a municipal, it's in the city limits.
And then
I believe the
Greenville
Greenville
Utilities.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I wanted to also just give you an aerial of the lake, and what's highlighted in yellow there is the watershed. That's the drainage area that flows into this lake. So it's quite a large drainage area. It's 367 acres. It includes mostly residential, as you can see, but in that upper portion, there's a good bit of commercial area, Walmart, a Food Lion Shopping Center, lots of impervious area, meaning whenever you develop land that impervious, it sends the flash flooding to the lake. So they get a lot more flow now than they used to before all of this development, and they get it faster. It comes quicker. I'll try to highlight this without being too technical, but the hydraulic parameters of the existing conditions versus what it would be required to be in compliance. So currently, the dam overtops in a 100-year event, even less than 100-year, we believe. There's corrugated metal pipes as part of the outlet structure currently, and those are corroded. That was one of the issues noted in the deficiency. And the old lake drain is no longer operational. That was also noted in the deficiency notice. What's required for compliance for a high hazard dam is that you pass the 1/3 PMP, which is the probable maximum precipitation storm event without overtopping. And just to put that in perspective, it's much bigger than the 100-year event. There's a 100-year event. It's bigger than the 500-year. It's bigger than the 1,000-year event. It's a big event. We would likely never see that, but that's the design standard for a high hazard dam. Also, corrugated metal pipes are not allowed in high hazard dams because they fail much sooner than concrete. They corrode, and they send the corroded waste downstream. And a lake drain is required for high hazard dams, so the fact that theirs is not operable means that would need to be repaired or reestablished.
Okay, I've got another question.
Yes.
So you go back to your high hazard, that's a type of dam, and it's not that they are in a hazardous condition right now.
Right.
Okay.
It's just an indicator of the hazard
That's helpful.
downstream.
Thank
Yes. This is a map of what our recommended repair would be. So what's highlighted in red is a proposed outlet structure, which is would be a concrete riser with 2 72-inch concrete barrels that would go through the dam and all the way across and discharge on the other side of Eastern Pines Road. I've also noted an area that could be used for possible park amenities. You could put like a walkway, some benches on top of the dam, but no structures like playground equipment or anything like that. But you could put it on that area up that's highlighted there, the northern part of the part that would be not considered dam per se, but is part of the current POA property that if you took over ownership, you could use for a park amenity.
Back to that
yes.
picture. It looks like the lake dam that drains through the pipe and go over, across that area of,
the Eastern Pines?
Yes, Eastern Pines
Road.
Road. There look like residents on the other side of the lake. Is that correct?
Yes, there are
What
structures
potential problems will exist when there is I know you said that it's not a problem with danger of the dam itself, but what happens when rain events overfill? Because having seen some of that, what will it do for these properties down from the drain over?
Currently, what happens when the dam overflows is all of the water backs up behind an undersized culvert, and then it makes its way through that culvert and goes down that stream that's downstream from there beside those properties. So certainly that would be a consideration to look further downstream if we were going to pipe more flow quicker through larger pipes. What would happen downstream?
So you may be causing a problem for the people on the other side.
Possibly.
That's right. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and we have not looked at what the stream looks like down there. So if it needs to be, if that stream would need to be, widened out and improved, we could. Yes.
Yeah, I would just add to that question, Mary, is as part of the design process of this repair or this design that you see, conceptual design, all that would be looked at. FEMA would be involved. There would have to be studies done to see how it impacts downstream and how that impacts the flood zones and the flood area below Lake Glenwood itself. So all that would have to be looked at. You couldn't just do this work and say, okay, sorry, residents downstream. You'd have to investigate that and actually show design consideration.
Because I've seen some of it like down in Stokes where the water does not drain wherever, and when it opens up, it overflows and cause problems someplace else.
Yeah.
And so, because it goes under a road, that's damming, and it may be a concern to the other side.
If I could jump in right here too, and in your report you note that the dam does serve this is along Commissioner Perkins-Williams' line of question, I think, as it concerns flow downstream. In your report you did indicate that there was substantial stormwater detention capacity that the lake serves within this watershed. Could you maybe outline that a little bit? And this is water that rushes in a rain event, substantial rain event, and that's detained there and keeps it from rushing downstream sooner to overwhelm the properties underneath the dam. And that's
sure. I can read a couple of sentences from the report. This is on page 4 of the report that's provided in your packet, I believe. But the models indicate that Lake Glenwood provides significant flood storage capacity, reducing downstream flows by 70 to 80% in the 2-year and 25-year storm events. And even in the 50 and 100-year events, the lake is projected to reduce downstream peak discharges by 64 and 48% respectively. So the lake is providing some stormwater flood relief, flood storage and detention.
So presumably it's helping keep water from rushing downstream with the detention capacity. Okay.
Okay, this slide shows 2 of the 4 park amenity alternatives. There's 4 in your packet. I just selected, we have 2 that included just the land that is currently owned by the POA, and 2 that would include adding that additional piece of property that at the time we were doing the report we thought may be available to add more park. I'm not sure that that's correct now, but this is just a schematic that a landscape architect provided for us. We did not cost out any of the park amenities, not knowing what the direction was going to be or whether or not you would want restrooms, park shelters, parking, but we put several alternatives together so you could have that in your packet to review.
And part of that property is not available now, you said?
It's privately owned. I don't know if it's available
now.
now.
There's one piece of property as you enter, I guess just to the south side on Leon Drive that we thought had been abandoned. It appears to be, but according to some of the property owner association folks, there's still individual that lives there. So we're not sure what the availability of that lot would be. But if in the case we could receive it somehow, whether by purchase or gifted, it would be the options there to create some additional parking, I believe, mainly for that space.
My concern is that it's private now, and you get looks and stares when you don't, when you just show up and look at it, and you may be a bit uncomfortable. And if we do this, it becomes public, is that correct?
When you say this becomes public, are you referring to the?
If you take over that lake.
The dam,
So
yeah,
if you-
well, we're kind of getting to that place.
Okay.
We're gonna discuss those
But
options here in a
because
second.
you just can't, anybody just can't, I want to say it right, anybody just can't walk out there and look.
Right, so right now,
And-
correct, the homeowner association, the property owner association, in their bylaws, any individual, any family or people that own land within the property owner's boundaries can utilize the lake. So it's not just the folks that live around it that have physical property adjacent to the lake, but it's the entire neighborhood. So if you live in that neighborhood, you can access the lake. Other than that,
I don't
it's
live in that
not for
neighborhood.
the public. I understand.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I have a detailed cost estimate in your packet, but for the slide, I just wanted to highlight the important part. Construction estimate for the construction of the dam repairs, not to include the park amenities. We estimate that to be $626,000. The design, permitting, and construction administration for that, we estimate to be $125,000 for a total project cost of $751,000. Again, that does not include any park amenities, just the dam repair.
Is that slide in our, I didn't see that slide, I must have missed it.
The slide, this slide is not, there is a cost estimate that has these numbers at the total of the total. You have the breakdown of where those numbers came from in your packet. I wanted to talk about the grant funding opportunities. There's two grants I'm aware of that I think this dam meets the eligibility for, the American Rescue Plan and the High Hazard Potential Dams. I'm not going to talk much about American Rescue Plan because the two application submittals that I think this dam could apply for, I don't think that they have a chance of winning. It's unlikely because of the priority ranking matrix that has been determined for those pots of money. But I do think that it's likely to be selected if it was submitted for the high hazard potential dams, if it meets the eligibility requirements. And I have another slide for the eligibility requirements in just a second. But that high hazard dam program is funded by FEMA, so I've got FEMA at the top. FEMA has issued money to every state based on the number of high hazard dams that are in your state, and the state recipient is the dam safety program for each state. So North Carolina Dam Safety for our state. That's the only entity that can actually apply for these grant fundings. So the subrecipient can be any non-federal government or nonprofit. So Pitt County would be the subrecipient. You would be feeding your information to Dam Safety, and they would in turn make the application to FEMA. And the dam owner, Pitt County could own the dam and apply, or could apply as a, quote, sponsor for the dam owner to be the POA, as the POA.
Didn't you say Greenville, the city of Greenville, is involved in this area?
It's an ETJ.
It's that strange animal called ETJ, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So where is that the city of Greenville? I'm quite familiar with ETJ and the city of Greenville.
About 2 or 3 streets away.
See, there you go right there.
If you, city of Greenville looks like a turkey shoot. It's not a clean line, but if you look at the map, you'll see it zigzags all around it.
Yeah, and what further complicates Lake Glenwood is that there's city limits to the north. So the start of the watershed where Walmart, Food Line are, that's all city limits. And then downstream of the dam is city limits. So it's ETJ in between, and that's where Lake Glenwood falls.
Is that why it's not in the city now?
Probably.
Is that why?
It hasn't been annexed? I mean, they've skipped around it because they don't want the dam?
I don't know about that. I don't know.
But I mean, if we take the dam, and they take the area, then we've got a dam in the city of Greenville.
City,
Where this,
City of Greenville, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's our dam, but it's their land. It's,
that's the problem.
I'm
I
sure
mean,
it typically it's utility based and not,
I'm sure
stormwater
too,
related.
I'm sure, but once we own the dam and the city annexes that space, the county will own a dam in the city.
Yes.
But I'd like to say something. According to the mayor and several of the council members, they will not annex unless they voluntarily ask to be annexed. So what we need to do is go to Lake Glenwood, ask the people there, will you volunteer to be annexed? And then it'll become a city issue. Assuming the city would then annex them. But if they see it's gonna cost them a lot of money, they probably won't live up to that.
They can get a grant.
Well, see, the utilities are involved, and utilities gives a lot of money that's unallocated funds to the city of Greenville. I think I said it right, but then, I think there will be some problems right there.
You talking about Greenville Utilities?
Yeah, they talking about utilities.
Greenville Utilities gives the city of Greenville money that's, they say they're a nonprofit, but they give $10 million a year.
Right.
So how can they do that if it's
If it's
nonprofit? But anyway,
nonprofit.
I'm
they
gonna
give
let
them-
Amy finish her presentation so we can stay on track here tonight.
Sorry.
But it's
I'm
related.
fine, yeah, I'm fine.
But it
I'm
is
sorry,
related.
yeah.
I just wanted this board to know that ETJ in the city of Greenville is just like out in the atmosphere of the universe somewhere.
Ms. Black, if you could please continue.
Okay, I mentioned that there were 4 eligibility criteria. 2 of them the dam already has. We have a notice of deficiency from Dam Safety, and it already has been deemed unsatisfactory condition of assessment from the state. The 2 things that we don't already have but could be implemented, the dam has to have an approved emergency action plan, and the dam has to be included in your local hazard mitigation plan. I put together another comparison of county-owned dam versus POA-owned dam. So if it's a county-owned dam, you wouldn't have to have a contractual agreement with the POA. You could design, construct, and maintain in the best interest of the county with no POA input. And you would have the opportunity to create a community amenity on the property. If you were the subrecipient as a sponsor of the POA and left the ownership to them, then the county is responsible for the design, construction, and maintenance as a subrecipient of the money. You would then need to manage a contract with the POA for their cost share, whatever portion of that you were going to require for them to pay. And you would also be accepting long-term responsibility if the POA fails to meet their obligations for long-term maintenance and repairs. This was not in your packet. This is a slide that I created just to kind of summarize the funding items. So the application process is a 2-year process. The first year you apply for the design cost. Then you have that year to do the design and permitting. It takes a year to do any permitting on a dam repair project. And then the following year you apply again for the construction part. So the application process would need to have an emergency action plan. That cost is $15,000. You would need to update your hazard mitigation plan. I put no direct cost. I'm not aware of any direct cost, but certainly there's staff cost. And the submittal package would take some consultant hours. I just estimated 5,000. It could very well be less than that, I'm not sure. And obviously some staff time. And then the design phase, there's a 35% cost share. So once they issue the award and we do the move forward with the design, they require 35% cost share. So our estimate, based on our cost estimate, is $43,750 for that amount. And again, some of your staff administration, no direct cost, but certainly not insignificant. And then the application process for construction, again, consultants' time and staff time. And the construction phase would have another 35% cost share. Based on our $626,000, that would be $219,000 for the cost share. And then post-construction, long-term, once the project is complete, there's an annual operation and maintenance that varies from year to year. You would have to update your EAP annually. If there were any future repairs, those would be on the county to make sure that they were completed, either county funded or a requirement of the POA, and then obviously more staff administration.
Miss, could I possibly get a copy of your slides that have the numbers on it?
Sure.
I don't retain numbers.
That's on page 8.
You said that they.
I know, but that, what's on the screen is on page 8. I read it.
Yes, I would assume that.
There's another one that's not in the packet.
We can provide the PowerPoint to the full board.
We got this one, but the other one that's not in the packet. You got the best professional guess.
Yes. So the staff said they could provide the PowerPoint presentation for you. And in case you're not aware of what the dam looks like, if you haven't been out there, I put a few pictures. The upper left is from the top of the dam looking down towards Eastern Pines, so looking down that concrete chute. That's the spillway now. The top right is just standing up on top of the dam, kind of looking back towards Leon Drive. The one at the bottom left is from the bottom on Eastern Pines Drive, looking up the chute. And then the other one is the 3 barrels that come. It's hard to see in this picture, but those corrugated metal pipes are very degraded. If you get close and look up in the pipe, the bottom of the pipe is missing in a lot of places. It's totally eroded out.
Could you tell me where the car is actually parked in the top left one?
That car is just driving by. That is Eastern Pines
Road. Okay, that was what I wanted to know.
Yes, that's not a parked car.
Could we drive out there, Tim, you and I, and maybe we can get some better
It's just kind of hard to get
ideas about my question that goes through my head about this right here compared to some things elsewhere. Thank you.
Yes, and this slide is supposed to say discussion/questions. We made that edit, and apparently it didn't get saved.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I know that we've had discussion and questions, and I'm prepared to make a motion since it's really not fiscally responsible for us right now and that there are a lot of uncertainties with this project. I would like to make a motion to discontinue further consideration of this project.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Okay.
Move that, and first, thank you, Amy, for coming. And we've got members of the Lake Glenwood Homeowners Association here tonight, and thank you all for being here and participating in this process. I submit to the board that this is early on in the process of moving a way forward for effective stormwater management. Certainly what's not being asked in front of the board tonight is an expenditure that the county take on. We're not looking at an increase on the tax line. What we're looking for is an opportunity to continue to work with the Homeowners Association and the members out there, continue to look at managing the stormwater situation out in Lake Glenwood, which is, in the last number of storms we've had wash out of Eastern Pines Road. It's an ongoing concern and problem. So whether or not it's fiscally responsible or not, I think that's a question we can answer better once we loop in our partners. Ms. Black didn't touch on this, but the Department of Transportation has been in conversations with the Homeowners Association on this. As it regards the part that underpins Eastern Pines Road, there's an interest in making sure that's shored up. The plan that you've presented tonight it presumably will address that, but there would be some cost share, we would assume, with the Department of Transportation. Since this is a relatively recent received report, that just hasn't come yet. So you haven't been able to coordinate the Homeowners Association, as they've indicated to me, have not been able to approach DOT and see what that cost share would look like. There's also been extended conversations with folks up in Raleigh, with our delegation. So suffice to say that we don't know whether or not it's a fiscally responsible thing to undertake because we don't know what the cost, if any, the cost would be after grant opportunities are explored and other funding sources are explored. So what I think that tonight's report does is lay out some clear questions that the homeowners association needs to answer, and I guess what this board, I would present before this board is to allow that process to play out a little bit further, and just to allow staff and the homeowners association to continue to explore those opportunities, not asking to move forward with the grant application, not asking for any of that, just to see what our bottom line is going to be at the end of the day, and then we can make the decision of whether or not it's a fiscally responsible and whether or not it's a responsible overall decision to be really proactive on stormwater management. So my substantive motion was to leave this open, let us continue the discussion with staff and the homeowners association, let us get the feedback from the Department of Transportation, and then if it comes back and looks like it's not a financially good decision, we address it there, but I'd like to leave it open. That's my motion.
I'd second that.
I have questions to, okay, all right. We have a motion from Lauren and a second, a substitute motion here. Voting, we're gonna vote on, I think, this one first, right?
You vote on the substitute motion first.
Okay, and then we will.
If it carries, then it obliviates the first motion. If it doesn't carry, then you vote on the main motion made by Commissioner White.
That's what I wanted to know.
And before we vote, just to make it clear what Chris is saying, let's not make it final right now. Let's get some more information. We still may end up not doing anything, but at least we'll have all the information. Is that kind of what your motion is, Chris?
I am, and I'm not making that out of the blue. I mean, we don't know what the Department of Transportation of cost share is going to be because this is the first part of the report. We went down to get the report. They haven't seen the report yet, and they don't know this plan and what it's going to look like. And so we would need to see that before we know what that cost is. We don't know what. Yeah, that's the.
Second Lauren. Proceed on that without a committee.
I'm just wanting to make sure I do the right thing here because water doesn't evaporate and go away, and just because we don't do anything about it, I'm a little compassionate about the quality of life of residents here. And since we are not obligating anything like that or whatever, we need to know more about it and be involved so we can make a sensible judgment with the residents that may be impacted and not set a precedence. So, okay, now I know how I'm going to vote.
Commissioner Coles.
Question. The lake itself will still be owned by the homeowners association, is that correct, in any of these?
That's correct, and I
So
believe
therefore-
Amy could maybe expand on why they were thinking that might be the best.
Well,
I mean,
they who? They thinking
why
who?
why the study didn't recommend ownership of the lake. You want to touch on what? Yeah.
Yeah, originally my information from Dam Safety was that in order to qualify for the grant, the dam had to be owned by a municipality. But when all the information from FEMA came out, it does appear that you can be a subrecipient and not be the dam owner and be the sponsor. You're still financially obligated, but you don't have to be the dam owner. So our recommendation at the very beginning was to only purchase or take ownership of the dam itself, not the whole lake. So you would not be responsible for or liable for the shorelines for the private owners.
You don't have to be. The homeowner can own to 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet into the lake. Beyond that point would then be, in this case, the county.
Mm-hmm.
The way I'm looking at this is if you go and all we do is take over the dam, basically. We got all liability, all expense, all everything. And if you have people to come to visit and let's say they bring their own rowboat or a kayak or whatever, and they put it into the lake. They can't be there because the homeowners can say, I own this lake, you can't be there. So what's the good of the park? The park has limited or no value.
Right, so certainly, if we were discussing the park amenities, we can certainly discuss, I just selected the line that I drew for where we thought you would want to where you would want the county ownership to end and the POA ownership
So,
to end.
and on that note, Commissioner Colson, and this is just when we're talking about the subrecipient, how that works out. While we are legally primarily responsible, what the expectation would be, I would think, and again, I think it's too early to have that conversation. That's why I think we need to leave it open. But presumably, it would still be the homeowners association that would be required to maintain and to do all that financially. Because we're the subrecipients, this is a question that we had for Amy, and she's passed the question on, and she's not sure contractually if that can be worked out. But presumably we could serve as the subrecipient, have those pass-through funds, fix the dam, and the homeowners association could have an agreement whereby they are fully responsible for all of the mowing, all of the maintenance, all the repairs. So it's, again, not an item that technically, if they fail, it would be our issue.
So,
but they would still be paying for it.
So the repairs, what if the repairs turn out to be hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure they're gonna be jumping it up and opening up their wallet and saying, here, let me give you $20,000, $30,000, $50,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. And again, I think that's a fair question, and I think that's a question that on the second and third level of this discussion, once we get back what the initial cost is going to be on it, whether or not, even if it's fully funded by outside sources and not coming to the county taxpayer, what those potential expenditures could be and what they look like, so we can make an informed decision on it. Because I think the backside of that question is, what does a solid stormwater and wastewater management program look at our county? We all know that that's a real problem. And folks that live there know it's a real problem because I think Floyd, Florence, multiple occasions Eastern Pines Road's washed out. So we can act or not act, but I think it behooves us to just be a partner and assist as much as we can, but really looking at it from a full picture and decide whether or not we want to get into it on the financial level. That's why I just think it should be open right now. But I think your question's, it's directly on point. I just don't think we don't know what the cost is.
So then we're talking about something we shouldn't be considering now. That's what you're telling me.
Well, I think we should be considering it, but you know, what I'm saying is
But we don't know enough information, you're saying, so therefore it's premature.
I thought this motion here is to get information, because as I have educated myself, because we deal with a lot of the water and the standing thereof and the drainage thereof. I've been through a lot of them. This motion would provide us more information, because I have some questions. I have some questions about this as it relates to the water, the drainage, and the containment thereof.
But Mary, I have a concern that a handful of people will benefit at the expense of the majority of the county paying for it through taxation.
Yeah.
We're talking about roughly $1 million here. What's our budget this year? 250, 60 million?
281 million.
Well, this coming year is going to be 281, or is it this year?
The
828?
current year.
Okay, but it's still a significant portion of that for a benefit of just a handful of people in the county.
So,
But
how much
my
money?
point is, it may not be our dime, right? You know, that's what I'm saying. It could be a grant source. It could be other sources funding the project.
Who do you think pays for that, those grants? That is your dime.
Mr.
All right, at
Chairman.
this time,
We're off
the
the question. We're off
the
the
motion
question.
has been moved and properly second. I'm going to go ahead and call
I'm
the
not
vote.
ready. Mr. Chairman.
We've spoken more than twice.
Yes.
We've all spoken, many of us have spoken more than twice on this subject. It's time to vote.
It's time to vote.
Or other people that haven't spoken speak. Our rules say twice.
Mr. Chairman, how much money is involved keeping this open just to get information? Madam Manager. I mean, I'm asking about money here. Is it gonna cost any more to get information?
So to gain information, no, but to move forward with the plan as proposed would cost the cost of the emergency action plan and the update of the hazard mitigation plan, if that's a path the county chose to go down.
If everyone can vote, please.
Are we voting on the substitute?
Substitute
So
motion made by
Chris's
Commissioner
motion.
Nunley. Motion passes 5-4. We can now move on to items for decision, renaming of Hospital Drive. Madam Manager.
I'm sorry, yes. As a follow-up to your April 4th meeting, staff submitted People's Way to the City of Greenville for consideration on the renaming of Hospital Drive. On April 6th, Brian Thompson with the City of Greenville notified the county that People's Way is an acceptable street name. There are 3 addresses that will be affected, 1717, 1725, and 1825, all of which are owned by Pitt County. So if the board wishes to move forward with the renaming of Hospital Drive to People's Way, you would just need a motion to adopt the resolution in your packet effective May 1st.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. We could vote, please. Motion passes.
Your next item is appointment to the Human Relations Commission, and it is being recommended that Dr. Silvernail be appointed as the public health representative on the Human Relations Commission to replace Amy Haddam.
So
I
moved.
say move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Motion passes. We can now finally move on to the reappointment of the Agricultural Advisory Board.
Yes, it is recommended that you reappoint Mr. Eddie James, the Northeast representative, and Mr. Carl Briley, the Northwest representative, to the Agriculture Advisory Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and second. If we could vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to Mr. Peterson's presentation. I believe we did not realize that he was asking for action or a statement of no action. So, Madam Manager, do we want to say that we're going to wait on the Association of County Commissioners and see what they say, and then we will take some action?
What we talking about right now?
Care to readdress it?
So,
I don't think he asked for a specific.
Well, he didn't ask, but that was the purpose of his presentation, that part of his presentation. Am I correct, Madam Manager?
yes, so if you take no action, in response, then nothing will be done.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we need a statement made to that effect, don't you?
Are you asking my opinion of what we would like to do?
I'm asking Madam Manager.
So
At this
I don't,
point.
at this point, you heard a presentation from Trillium. There was no action taken by the board, so there is no action that the board is directed to do. The NCACC has
But,
spoken on behalf of counties. I'd be happy to continue to monitor that activity and
But-
report back to the board if there's anything to report back.
But I want the board to be clear on what the situation is. And I don't know, because you had just one question, so I don't know that the board really understand what the situation is, right now.
I think if something else is brought back to the board's attention, certainly we can address it. But at this point, I consider it closed.
I think your explanation of it as what we talked about.
What I just said,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll continue, that the board has taken no action and that we'll continue to monitor the path of the NCACC.
Yeah, because right now it is whether to have a statewide program to monitor foster children care or not to have. That's the question. You know, and some counties are taking a position on it, and some counties are not taking a position on it. Some counties are just you know,
Monitoring the situation.
just monitoring the situation. So Pitt County wants to monitor the situation and wait on the results or maybe the position of the Association of County Commissioners.
I can certainly monitor that.
Okay.
I don't think I can speak for what the board wants to do. I think if you're asking me to monitor it, I'd be happy to do that.
Yes.
All right, if we can now move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Colson?
None.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
No comment.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams?
I just want everybody to be careful about the trash. It's raining.
Commissioner Nunley?
No comment.
No comment.
Vice Chairman?
Well, April is Poetry Month, and the Farmville Community Arts Council is sponsoring a haiku competition to write a haiku about how much you love Pitt County, and you have a couple of more days to submit this to the Farmville Community Arts Council, Laurie Drake. And an example of a haiku would be one that Jack Kerouac wrote in 1948 when he lived near the Tar River. Smoke is on the Tar River, the sparrow does its delicate flutter.
Commissioner Huggins?
Well, I do want to comment. I really support the solid waste, that program, really looking at enforcing, looking at maybe some enforcement. And I hope we will, our schools will support the art contest again this year. I want to speak to my my trip to Raleigh to the Healthy Counties Forum. That was really, I really learned a lot, and I got a chance to tour the Oak City Cares, and beautiful establishment, and they coordinate meals, on-site service to help with securing medical and mental health and substance abuse care. They do meals on Saturdays and Sundays because a lot of places, you know, Saturdays and Sundays there are no meals for the homelessness. And beautiful facility. So I invite you at some time when you're visiting Raleigh that you ride by Oak City Cares and look at it, and if you have if you can go in and tour and ask some questions. They have a lot of providers that work with the program. Beautiful facility, clean, and they really they offer a lot to the homeless population there. So.
Commissioner
No
Ward?
comment.
Motion to go into closed session. I think that's on the thing.
Does he need to read his thing first?
It has been suggested this body go into closed session under two grounds. First, under North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A1 to prevent the disclosure of information that is confidential under General Statute 143, 318.10. And second, under General Statute 143, 318.11A4 to discuss an economic development matter.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second.
Hey, Alex.
And then if the board will wait, the Public Information Office will cue you on your screen when you are in closed session.
That sewage.
I'd like to welcome everybody back into open session. At this time, entertain
Yes,
Any motions?
I would like to make a motion to approve the closed session minutes from February 21st,
Second.
2022.
It's been moved in second. Vote, please. Motion passes.
And at this time, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved in second. If everyone could vote.
So close.